I loved Winnie the Pooh as a child. Being very hyperactive at the time, it was one of the very few shows that I could actually sit down and watch. There was something so comforting and wholesome about the show. It was just a group of stuffed animal friends living together in the woods, forming a family like bond. It's hard to dislike it. My parents enjoyed it too. They bought me a lot of DVDs featuring the characters. However, one of them featured something that really scared me. No, this isn't the cliche lost episode story with the characters murdering each other and over the top gore. There wasn't any of that. The contents on the DVD were disturbing, but not to that level. Also, this isn't really a story, it's a childhood memory of mine that's been bothering me for years. This happened over a decade ago, so I'll try to remember what I can. Anyways, here's what happened. When I was in first grade, I was probably about 6 or 7, I went with my mom to our local thrift store a few weeks before Halloween to buy a costume. She liked to go there rather than other places like Party City or Spirit Halloween, since the prices were usually cheaper. There was a bin of DVDs labeled Halloween. I dug through them, seeing what I could find. Most of them were horror movies, which I was way too young for. However, I found one that struck my interest. It was titled Winnie the Pooh and Halloween 2. From what I remember, the cover art was just clip art of Pooh and his friends against a spooky background. The background consisted of an orange sky with the black silhouettes of creepy trees, bats, and a haunted looking house. It was probably clip art too. I asked my mom to buy it. She was a little hesitant just because we had a similarly titled DVD at home. Boo to you too, Winnie the Pooh. Since it was only $1, she bought it anyway. She just didn't want me to be too disappointed if it wasn't something special. I wanted to watch it as soon as we got home. Mom had to make dinner, so she couldn't really watch it with me. I decided to watch it by myself since I was so eager. My mom put the DVD into the player and left me to enjoy it as she went into the kitchen. Instead of going to a menu, it went straight to the movie. Even after a few seconds, I could tell this wasn't any Pooh special I've seen before. The opening credits were just white text against a black background. If I remember correctly, the music in the background kinda sounded like a knockoff version to the theme of Halloween. The opening scene began with Rabbit and Pooh loading a wagon with pumpkins. Rabbit was explaining to his friend that he was hosting a Halloween party and that there was a lot of work to be done. I already noticed that a few things were off. First of all, the characters looked like their usual selves, but there was still something different about them. Also, their voices sounded just different. Being a child, I ignored it. Later on, Pooh and his friends traveled to Rabbit's house for the party at sunset on Halloween night. There were a few scenes before that, but I don't remember what they were. On the way, Tigger teased Piglet by telling him about the headless woozle. He begged for Tigger to stop, but he didn't. This was very out of character. Tigger has said some things that scared Piglet before, but not intentionally. He sounded almost like a bully, rather than his usual friendly attitude. Rabbit greeted them in his costume upon arrival. The party was in front of his house. There were multiple activities set up, like pumpkin carving, cornhole, the usual. Nothing really happened here. It just focused on them having fun at the party for a few minutes. Afterwards, they all left in a group to go trick-or-treating. However, Piglet had to run back to his house to get something. His friends waited on him, telling him not to take too long. The next scene was Piglet, all alone in the dark woods. I actually remember being a little creeped out at this part. He heard strange noises, reassuring himself that there's nothing to be afraid of. Out of nowhere, a strange creature jumped out from behind a tree. It was the headless woozle, the same one Tigger was talking about earlier. I remember gasping loudly at the headless woozle's design. It resembled a slender, weasel-like creature without a head. It held a scythe in one of its paws. Each paw had long Freddy Krueger-like claws. This character didn't look kid-friendly at all. The art style that it was drawn in was different from the other characters. In fact, it resembled the artwork from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Piglet screamed and tried to run away. However, the Woozle raised his scythe and slashed it at him. Being a sensitive kid, I looked away at this moment. I didn't want to see one of my favorite characters get hurt. After a few seconds, I looked back, and what I saw haunted my nightmares for days. It was Piglet, headless, running in circles blindly. Puffs of stuffing flew upwards out of his neck. I believe it was meant to look like squirting blood. The only music playing were the streaks of violins that made it more disturbing in a way. Piglet tripped over his own severed head. Upon seeing that he's been decapitated, he let out his signature,
"Oh, dear."
I was somewhat relieved that he was still alive. The Woozle then picks up Piglet's head and puts it on his stump, using it as a replacement for his old head. The Woozle stormed off into the woods as Piglet could be heard screaming for Pooh to help him. I couldn't take it anymore. I scrambled for the remote and just shut the TV off. I needed a minute to process what I just saw. Winnie the Pooh, or any children's show I've seen, has never gotten this scary. I wasn't sure if I could keep watching it. My dad arrived a couple minutes later to see that I was clearly disturbed by something. When he asked me what was wrong, I began to cry. My mom came into the room, hearing how upset I was. Through my hiccuping sobs, I explained to my parents what I saw. They didn't know whether to believe me or not. The next morning, my parents informed me that they watched the DVD in its entirety. After I went to bed, of course. They were mad more than anything. Mad that something so dark and disturbing could feature such beloved characters. However, they reassured me that all the characters, including Piglet, were all okay at the end, and I never had to watch it again if I didn't want to. Years have passed and I've never seen that DVD again, but I still think about it a lot. I failed to find any traces of the special anywhere, not even on IMDb. I've even emailed the Walt Disney Company and they've yet to respond. I know what I saw was real. My parents still remember it too. I also can't find anyone else who's seen it. Everybody keeps telling me that I either misremembered another special or I dreamed it, but I definitely didn't. For whatever reason, I've been having nightmares about it again. I've also been strangely paranoid lately. I can't explain it, but I don't know why any of this is happening. Deep down, I somehow know that sometime during this Halloween season, I'll see that special again. I don't like to jump to over-the-top conclusions, but I'm scared there might be something paranormal going on. Anyway, if you have any information on this special, please let me know.